Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we are taking a look at a game that was played pretty recently on Ascendancy. Ascendancy is one of those maps that always gets a little bit of a rep for being, well, a little bit flippity-floppity, right? Once one side wins, they tend to win the entire game for their team, but oftentimes, I mean, it's kind of a fun power trip, right? You get to win the lane for your team, and then you win the game for your team. Definitely always fun to see. Now, I don't know how this match turns out. I didn't spoil the results for myself or anything, but I do know that that's the way that this map tends to go. So I'm excited to introduce our blue team leader, who's going to be vying for control over the northern side of this game already. My goodness, skipping the laboratory and everything here as well. An exceptionally greedy start. It's going to be Seduce Your Aphis. Clocking in at 36 open skill and bronze chevrons as well. It's a little bit of a lower lobby, so we're going to be seeing some good old-fashioned learner's lobby mistakes, but today it apparently is going to be at Seduce Your Aphis, marching forward right here confidently on the northern high ground. Okay, we'll see how well it works. Spawning on the entire, other side of the map right here as a Legion commander spawning with that, sexy Legion model. Looking beautiful with those Darth Maul in his resurgence. Sorry, spoiler warning for a show that's 15 years old, 12 years old, something like that. Spoiler warning for Clone Wars, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Getting those Darth Maul legs. Those Darth Maul, once he gets brought back to life by the, what are they, Dothraki? What are they called again? Oh god, Dathomir. Yeah, I guess they'd be Dothraki. The Dathomir sisters, the evil sisters, whatever. Anyways, what were we talking? Oh yeah, sexy Legion commander. Very nice. Going to be spawning on the southern side here. It's Jeff 007 playing as a Legion vehicle commander. Phew. Sorry, going on a little bit of a side tangent like that. Probably, I mean, let's be honest here. Probably one of the best character arcs in Star Wars that I can think of. I mean, there are like Anakin Skywalker is the classic, right? You know, that's the bread and butter. But when I think about characters that are essentially not main characters, that got a main character quality of treatment, I think Darth Maul definitely has to be up there. For a character that was essentially meant to be disposed of, probably some of the best writing around. If you haven't seen the very last fight, I believe... See, that's the thing about Darth Maul's character arc, is that it takes place across three different TV shows, or three different shows, right? A movie and 2 shows. If you haven't seen the final fight between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan on Tatooine, it's definitely worth checking out, or check out an analysis about, like, a breakdown of the fight, because it's really, really cool to see exactly what he does. Sam Reiner, or something like that, the guy who voices him is a super turbo nerd, and I always love watching his commentary on that sort of stuff, because it's awesome to see. How about some Beyond All Reason, though? An excellent tick snipe we just watched over here from these orange ticks moving forward from Zombie, snagging a kill on one of those metal extractors as well as the constructor right here. That's really nice. Of course, this can be resurrected by a resbot, but yeah, it's a bummer to have this go down because it does stop your expansion ever so slightly. Now, the Blue Commander has eventually set up a laboratory here, and we've gone into mace production. The Tick's taking a look around here and finding no metal extractors has got to be a little bit strange. Of course, we can always send a constructor back to go fix that up, but the maces here are going to be quite nice. One of the things that one of the reasons why I like the maces so much is because, of course, they have the high ground advantage. If you can hold this little ledge right here, that means they're going to be able to fire much further than, for instance, ones that were on the low ground firing upwards, right? Those projectiles are affected by gravity, so you can imagine firing up a hill a little bit harder than firing down one. LLTs in base right here are going to be enough to defend at least against these early wheelies coming across the map right here. These little mono wheel, well, technically they have 2 wheels, but they're kind of bolted together, right? These little one-wheel critters that are they have a single machine gun and 2 wheels to show for it. Going to be trying to harass down some of these metal extractors here. Yeah, should be able to. Okay. With the right micro, they should be able to. Looks like a little bit of an APM stall here, though, will bring them to an end without managing to snag a kill in the mix. A little bit unfortunate, not the end of the world. Maces here, again, on the high ground, firing away. Going to be doing a wonderful job against these goblins. The early goblin are essentially the tick or grunt equivalent. However, they're quite a bit more useful, I would say. They have quite a bit more range. They have, I believe it's 5 more range than the actual grunt has, and that means they have even more range than a pawn. Makes them really quite good at dealing with those early game units if they're microed really, really carefully. They're also extremely flimsy, right? You can see just 2 shots from the maces here to bring them down to 0 HP, to bring them out of existence. To casually escort those goblins out of existence. Yeah, it means that these maces are a perfect shutdown for this composition right here. Sharpshooter Simp is going to have to go for a more expensive composition right here if they want any chance of being able to deal with these maces. Centaur are out on the field, and they're definitely one option for a better response here. Also very flimsy, though, so Not going to have much options for as far as dealing with these maces if they can connect their shots. But if you micro the Centaur really, really nicely, if you manage to keep them all nicely alive and well, you can sometimes get away with using those against these heavier hitting units. Constructors expanding in the background here. We're going to be putting down some wind turbines, despite the wind speed being abysmal right now. We've also got a constructor shared over here from one of the Legion commanders, so that's going to be rebuilding all the metal extractors over here, which is always lovely to see. Seducer Aphis needs these mexes up and online, because eventually the advantage is going to fade away, right? We're gonna be fighting over all this area, but not really with any benefit for it. We've only got this one metal extractor. We need to get those ones in the backline up and running. Massive opportunity path open and awake right here for the for the blue team to take advantage of. The yellow commander, Sodfather, has gone ahead and gone for I invite you into my soil. Has gone ahead and taken a amphibious lab here. Gone for the metal extractors on the southern side, which is all well and good, I suppose, but it does, of course, mean that this lane is completely wide open. Captain Khaki is doing a great job of scouting it, at the very least sending a couple of pawns around to try and see what's up, and might find an opportunity to go kill the brown commander from behind. Nice little run by right here from the pawns. At the very least, the yellow commander, whose lane this is supposed to be guarded by, will manage to point this out to his team. Whether that really comes to help much, well, we will see. They are coming. A foreboding message, but not an incorrect one, as the metal extractor fears for its life, shaking in its baby seal leather boots as it does fall right here to this group of pawns headed towards the base. No LLTs, hardly any units, essentially no defense right here for the brown commander, not to mention an armada commander in the air. Means, of course, no shuriken are going to be here to save the day. A rocketeer comes out of the lab right now, but it'll be easy enough to dodge that missile and go ahead and kill this entire base. This is a dead commander. Darlek. I've got Doctor Who on the mind, apparently. Dark Elf 23. Okay, Dark Elf 20. Not Dark Elf. Dark Elf 23. Going to be eradicated here. No reason these pawns should be standing idle, though. They're kind of throwing away the advantage right now every second that they're idle. Oh, some splitties. You know, one pawn to kill this, one pawn to kill that, one pawn to go into this base. If you do a little splitties, you can get a lot more value out of this, but I have a feeling we're about to watch the mother of all D-guns. Never mind. No D-guns whatsoever here for Low, as apparently, you know, that's too chic, and Low isn't about that. He's more about that classic lifestyle. Overflowing metal right now, by the way, for the Seafoam Green Commander, who is suffering immensely on the front line. So, the damage is great, of course. Cleaning up this backline is wonderful, but if you can't use it to secure the front line, then really you haven't managed to get yourself much of an advantage at all. That being said here, it does mean that reinforcements are never going to come out of this lab in time, and we do have, again, pawns moving forward, but they didn't kill the laboratory. Why didn't we kill the laboratory? I can't understand why we didn't kill the laboratory here. That's what's got me scratching my head right now, but other than that, this is looking like a decent advantage for Captain Khaki. Also, without a metal extractor here, and without these mexes on the front, running a little bit low on, well, energy, actually, at the moment. Plenty of metal saved up right now. Needs a lot more energy, and the wind turbines have definitely been, well, slacking as far as energy production goes. But yeah, look at that. Completely parked up on this side. We do have lobbers, the light plasma bots, so they're basically, they fire the same projectile as a mace, but they have significantly less HP and obviously cost quite a bit less here. 60 metal and 400 energy means they're dirt cheap to produce about 1,000 of them. We've also got the Karkinos, though, which are going to be fabulous against any big spams of units. Oh, friendly fire right there can be brutal. You can see all of these units are whittled down right there on Sharpshooter Simp's army because, of course, yeah, those Gauss cannons mounted on top of the Karkinos can do a ton of damage if you're not really careful with them. The Karkinos should, of course, be in the front here. They should be taking the brunt of this, and the plasma bots should be in the back firing away into the distance. Oh my goodness, these pawns still haven't been cleaned up. How have these pawns existed for so long and this laboratory is still up and running? Look at Low, being a good teammate, putting some LLTs down to try and save his team. Could, of course, build the metal extractors here. That would be an even bigger help. Pawns still going on a tear. I mean, alright. I'm certain that Captain Khaki didn't expect these pawns to be able to really get this much damage. This is probably a surprise to the Seafoam Green Commander every time he looks back at these pawns and finds more and more of them are still alive. Karkinos will waddle out of the lab just in time right now to probably get one shot off. Oh, we're going to charge at it. Ooh. Not the most ideal engager right there, but we're still going to manage to kill a metal extractor, and even then we'll still pop the E-converters and another mech as well. Talk about heroes of the game. This one pawn with 3 silver bars right now, still managing to kill stuff in the backline. Karkino's trying to clean it all up, and I think finally going to manage to deal with this hero pawn. Nope. Okay, he gets away. And away he goes. I mean, no one pawn should have all that power. Ballista marching forward here. You know, I don't like to see him engaging against these medium tanks like this, though. This really isn't where you want him. The medium bots are actually quite sturdy. They really do have quite a bit of health. Obviously, that's relative to other bots, though, and how much health they have. Against vehicles, they're still going to be at a significant disadvantage. The nice thing here, though, is that the Karganet can impulse these tanks, stopping them from coming up this hillside right here. So the tanks are slowed by this hillside terrain, and then, of course, they're also slowed by the impulse from those attacks. So, all said and done, this can be eaten up right here by either of the commanders fighting over it, and then getting that reclaim and putting those units on the field is going to be wonderful. But for the time being, a couple of those hot pink units making it away from here is going to be quite nice. A couple of, Oh, an otter debris. Oh, I see. Okay, so we had an amphibious constructor setting up some HLTs over here, some floating heavy laser towers, the coral. Hardly ever get to see those, but when they, when they do pop up, it can be pretty interesting to see what kind of work they can do. Pharaoh Slight Laser Tower firing away into the distance right now, trying to poke down Seducer Aphis' LLT over here, but this economy is looking wonderful, and we really should be going for those overcharged metal extractors at this point. Getting a whole bunch of wind turbines up and running is fabulous, of course, but now that we've got the geothermal and we can actually afford it, we may as well go for the overclocked metal extractors so we can pump out a little bit more energy. Well, nice explosion from the orange commander, trying to save himself from the wrath here of the green commander. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to how quickly you can manage to scale your eco upwards. Pharaoh's LLTs, quite bad against ticks, actually. It's one of those weird engagements where just the way that a unit works can be all the difference between how good or bad it is. Resbot goes down right here to the Olaris, pumped out of the laboratory, and at the very least, Bartender is going to be able to deny the reclaim here from that commander wreck. Needs to get some of these units into position, though, in order to deflect a lot of these ticks that are coming across. Another Resbot down. Bartender wouldn't be wrong to try and go ahead and get some of those Resbots reclaiming that commander course right here. My goodness, these Karkinos. These are the ones that waddled around the side over here. Ended up all the way in the back line right now of the green commander. What a bizarre run-by unit. These are about as slow as T1 units get. They managed to find some value here. Okay, well. Shuriken saving the day for the time being. Oh, apparently not. Oh no, that's a friendly Karkinos. I see. Okay, yeah. Karkinos cleaned up nicely. Yeah, Shuriken doing a great job of helping shut down that run-by right there. Very nicely done. Still sucks to take all that damage, but at the very least, a lot of that metal is going to be reclaimable, and of course, not everything went down, so we will be able to rebuild here. Wind turbines, when the wind speed is high, you can always use those to go ahead and build a little bit better of an economy. You can leapfrog from the wind turbines into advanced solar panels if you wanted to. Man, Karkinos, the name of the game. Those heat ray lances don't do a lot of damage individually, but once you start to add them up, they really can start to sting pretty bad. Hovercraft run by, and it's massive. What a play down here. The yellow commander abandoning his lane and not being punished for it, and now the hovercraft sweeping through the southern side and looking for a proper engagement. Trying to fight these tanks, you know, 1 on 10. Trying to take a really efficient fight here, and I think I like that quite a lot. Build power will go down. And the hover tanks, the crocodiles, manage to make it onto land and start harassing the Lavender commander. Nicely done. It's a decent speck of damage right here. An excellent way to slow down the expansion on the southern side at the very least. T2, you know, is going to take a little while longer now to come out and up and running. Crocodiles taking advantage of their amphibiosity in order to hover across the water here and hide from any potential predators. The stout medium assault tanks are quite good at catching things on this big open flat terrain where you can see tanks have 120% movement speed, but hovers have 140, so they're a little bit faster while they're out here on the open ice. Meanwhile, it's Legion on Legion out here on the front lines for the Red and Cyan Commander. It looks like Jeff 007 and Baco are dueling it out here, but these heat ray tanks are pretty interesting. In fact, the entirety of T1 Legion vehicles is pretty strange because basically the way it works are these heat ray tanks do huge amounts of damage, but they have very low HP. And the Decurions here that you can see from the Cyan Commander have tremendous HP, but really, really low damage potential. Kind of creates this weird situation where you have to make a composition, otherwise you're just going to be in a really bad spot. In this case, though, it's going to be more stuff beating less stuff as the Red Commander manages to blast down all the Decurion right now for the Cyan Commander, at least all the ones that were sent forward. And, of course, once obtaining that reclaim, Jeff is going to be one happy camper, eating up all that metal and turning it into more and more vehicles rolling out of this lab on the front line. This stall on the front over here has been immense for the Red team. If this had gone down earlier, I think this would have been a much worse situation for the Red team, but the fact that this Rocket Spider is continuing to try and devastate this area, but Seduce Your Aphis went all the way up to T2 rather than just trying to break it with T1. It does, of course, mean that this is going to be a really, really tricky spot for now to deal with. Ballista, sorry about the camera here. It keeps jumping up and down the ledge right there. I know there's a way to change those settings, but if I change it here, then it'll be messed up for every other spot. It's just one of the ways that terrain mapping works. Anyways, Seduce Your Aphis repairing off the cliff right here. Repairing up that rocket spider is quite nice. Hound's firing away into the distance right now. Sharpshooter Simp tries to get a Pitbull up and running. The Green Commander with loads of forces right here probably could break through with this army. Honestly, that is a lot of Karkinos. Yeah, nearly 3,500 metal worth of Karkinos on the front right here for the Green Commander. Wouldn't mind seeing a couple of Rocketeers mixed in there as well, just for some burst damage. But if these Karkinos march forward, they're going to kill everything. And if you patch together a couple of res bots, or you bring a couple of res bots, we do as well have them, you're going to be in a great spot. You're going to be able to reclaim or resurrect any of this, and then suddenly you either have a frontline defensive position or you have thousands of metal in your bank account. Killer D-Guns right here from Natha, the Hot Pink Commander going up against the Powder Blue and the Seafoam Green, both of which losing numerous tanks and numerous vehicles, numerous units, that is, in order to push in there. Yeah, not a very cost-efficient trade whatsoever. This is why you need those rocket bots in the composition too, is just so you can reach out and hit a little bit harder at range. Karkinos, of course, great for when the units get real close. They fire a heat ray, which has escalating damage as you get closer and closer to the source. But for the time being, that does become really tricky if you're suddenly pushing in with thinner, lighter armor-plated units into a bunch of those Gauss cannons. They can be really ravaging. What a beautiful fortification, though. What a beautiful composition. We've got the Lances in the back, the Lance rail trucks. Long-range skirmisher / anti-air. They're basically meant for poking down heavier units. Perfect for dealing with, well, for instance, a bunch of these Decurion tanks, for example.
Battle paused.
All this metal going back to Jeff
Battle
007 as well. Looks like the Commander Seduce Your Aphis has managed to make it all the way over here at this point. Rocket Spider's another T2 coming down out of the hillside and doing tons of damage against the forces right now of the Orange Commander. Hold here, we are winning bots, says the Yellow Commander, and the Orange Commander is now put on a hold your ground order. Trying to hold against two different forces right now. We've got the Green Army marching forward, and we've got the Blue Army marching southward. Both of which in loads of trouble. We've got Belchers out here, but the Lightning Tanks are actually uniquely equipped to deal with the Belchers in the fact that they're just relatively quick. The Belchers also relatively fast, but of course when they're waddling through their own, their own napalm, they're going to be in a really, really tricky situation, I would say. One of the effects that the Decurion, of course, suffer from is that they're extremely slow, which means that these heat ray tanks do tend to connect their entire heat ray pulse with them. Sometimes units that are small and also fast can avoid a lot of the damage from these Helios tanks just because of the fact that they essentially can't track while they're firing their weapon. A couple of quick shot breaching the defenses here. Quick shot nerfed from their position where once they used to stand. Nowadays a little bit lighter, but still quite powerful as a raiding unit. You can see very, very thin as far as the armor goes, but also very dangerous to lighter units and lighter eco-structures like converters and that sort of thing. Wonderful for triggering the flanking bonus here as well. As you can see, those Lancers do quite a bit more damage once they're firing on a unit that has its back point exposed. Rocket Spider still holding out here, trying to defend the very last right now, but the Blue Commander is relentless pushing forward right here. T2 units rolling out on every front. We do have the Karkinos, instead of pushing on the midsection here, just avoiding all the pork and going after a different opponent instead. You know what, I like that quite a lot. That's pretty cheeky, actually. Oftentimes something that's neglected about this game, but sure, if your opponent is just building static defenses, you know that they're never going to move them towards your base. I mean, unless it's beamers. You'd have to be uniquely careful about beamer turrets. But other than that, there's really low odds that those static defenses are ever going to end up in your base, so you may as well send your heavy-hitting units to elsewhere on the map to try and gain some kind of an advantage that way. Rocket Spider is slowly falling as the Hounds whittle them apart. Missing their rockets most of the time right here is one of the reasons why the Rocket Spiders, the Recluses here, are so difficult to work with. Not always easy to tell whether a Recluse is going to get value in an engagement or not. Weber Spider trying to paralyze this Hound right here. Almost gets it, but doesn't manage to. With proper micro, this Recluse should never really be able to hit these Hounds. They should win this fight very easily. Willpower goes down before I can reclaim all of this orange lab right here. Southern side, what a spread of units right there from the Green Commander. A beautiful, well, it's not a concave, it's the opposite of that. An encave? A concave and a... I don't know what the opposite of a concave is. Huh. Somebody will put it in the comment section down below. And then I'll be reading the comments and I'll wonder why people are putting this random word in the comment section. Always love when that happens. Probably one of my favorite things about being a YouTuber, actually. That and learning about all the different currencies. Like, whenever somebody donates on the live streams, Tuesdays, pardon me, not Tuesdays, Saturdays, 12 to 4 PDT. No longer on Tuesdays. Yeah, it always tickles my fancy to know what the currency is and where it's coming from. YouTube doesn't, like, convert it all to one thing. It's not bits or whatever like Twitch does. I always find that uniquely fascinating. Mace here, you know what? Doing a surprisingly good amount of damage against this lightning tank, but it still manages to get into the back line, and at the very end of the day, the last HP is really the only one that matters. Yeah. A couple of Webbers here to reclaim a bunch of the wreckage. Always nice to see those Webber EMP spiders being made use of. They're really uniquely powerful in the sense that I've said that a lot, haven't I? They're very especially powerful for the fact that they can EMP things as well as reclaim. It doesn't seem like it, but they're actually a relatively good option as far as reclaim goes because, of course, they're all-terrain, which means especially on a map like this, there's basically no nook or cranny that they can't get into in order to suck up that metal out of the enemy's hands. There's also a bit of a cheesier strategy, one that is not necessarily efficient, but pretty funny to see, where you essentially go for mass Weber and then you deconstruct enemy units that you paralyze. There are specific... there are really specific commands that you can use for that. What are they called? Widgets. There are specific widgets you can use for that that help the Webbers help the Webbers do a better job when they're doing that sort of strategy. They can get in the way of the other way you might want to use the Webbers, though, which is just generally paralyzing things so that your other units have an easier time hitting them. Worth taking a look at. Yeah, definitely go pop into the official Beyond No Reason Discord and take a look at that. This is a massive advantage for the blue team, though. I mean, the southern side is completely wiped out, don't get me wrong. Jeff 007, if this commander was claiming these metal extractors, I would say probably is in a similar position to the blue commander at this point. But he doesn't. He doesn't have the metal extractors up and running. All those mexes are left to claim. The T2 economy is just barely coming up and running right now. Tidal speed, worth investing in, too. I wouldn't mind seeing more and more tidal generators set up here in the ponds. But for the time being, yeah, this is definitely a bit of a strange situation. Loads of cleavers have been set up here. Those are the T2 long-range artillery pieces, mobile cluster artillery vehicle. They're decent, but sort of in the same vein that all artillery vehicles fail. They really are only useful when you're dealing with static defenses. As soon as you're dealing with units that are even slightly mobile, and the Strider definitely counts, suddenly they lose a lot of their value very quickly. And here we go. Just like that, Strider managing to, well, step their way across the map and into the front line of the red base. It's the red production center, but it's not quite the back line right here. Most of it is cleaned up eventually, but it is a little bit shaky how easily those Marauder were able to take down, or pardon me, the Marauder, the Strider were able to take down all those cleavers and other T2 units. Clovers. I don't think there's a unit called a Clover yet. That's a lot of bulls that we've got built up right here. Kakara 9. Kakarinen? Not entirely sure. Oh. A nuclear missile has been launched. I see. Only hearing the nuclear detonation, not the nuclear launch. The yellow commander sending a nuke across and getting 31 kills, wiping out the green commander's base right there. Nicely done by the yellow commander in order to do that. Meanwhile, a massive engagement. This is what I was looking for. Oh, tell me that isn't beautiful. A sight to behold, those rockets all converging in a beautiful concave directly on top of all of these red tanks. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the rocket spiders are not necessarily the best unit for dealing with bulls, but in this particular situation, I mean, how much better does it get than that? That was something else entirely. Watching those all fire in unison is so satisfying. What a beautiful display of firepower. Weber's here trying to paralyze these units as much as they can, but really not having much of an effect. You need so many of them in order to paralyze the T2 units. Abductors in the air to try and paralyze the spiders here in the meantime. Commander Not paying attention. Down he goes. Pit bulls have been set up here. Of course, the spiders are essentially perfect for dealing with the pit bulls. Are we ready for another nuke? Yep. Right on time. It looks like we're sending it northward here. Nuclear missile is away, but the anti-nuke is up in the air to catch it, intercepting that intercontinental ballistic missile directly in midair atop the base here of the brown, tan, and hot pink commanders, meaning, of course, the blue production center will be kept safe. Nicely done remembering your anti-nuke. Always remember your anti-nuke. It's sort of like the yearly flu vaccine, right? You gotta remember your yearly anti-nuke. Your gamely anti-nuke. Gladiator tanks have pushed through the southern side right here, finding value against the Belchers. I think they're exactly the same way that the lightning tank works against the Belchers. They work for exactly the same reason. They are fast, they do a decent burst of damage, and they're, yeah, relatively capable of getting through. They have enough HP, that is, to get through the fire and the flame without actually losing all their HP about it. There they go. An excellent little raid right here as these Gladiator tanks manage to find some key infrastructure. Bogus Pocus, the green commander, loses the Amexes and the commanders in a lot of trouble here too. Wow, what a concentrated blast of firepower those Gladiators can put out. I've struggled for the longest time to find a use case for the Gladiators, where exactly they fit into a composition. It seems like they're essentially just a harder hitting run-by unit is kind of the tier that you want to use them as. They're essentially perfect for supporting run-by units or being run-by units. Dismantling enemy fortifications. Rocket Spider's slightly resistant to EMP. I'm not sure exactly how that interaction works now that the EMP has been changed slightly. It looks to me like they're definitely a little bit less resistant than once they were. In other words, more prone to EMP damage. Eventually, without any energy, though, the abductors run out of power for paralyzations, and it means the Rocket Spiders will be able to fire away once more. Heavy bombers to connect with these Rocket Spiders is lovely, of course, if they're going to be standing still, and it looks like, indeed, at least for now, they will. The Gladiator tanks, though. What massive value these Gladiator tanks have found. The Purple Commander, taking huge damage right now, losing it all despite having the T1 Cortex Lab and having full capability to produce a couple of Shuriken. These don't have air or anti-air, right? No. Just good old-fashioned rotary plasma cannons. Little 3x3 wind turbine field chain reacting for you. Always fun to watch one of those go off. It's like a fuse. It's beautiful. Okay. Well, you know what? Jeff has wiped out the entire southern side of this map right now. Finally, this yellow fortification center was all T1, and so will be cleaned up nicely right here by the Rocket Spiders, eventually blasting down all of this fortification before it can really manage to find much value. One of the reasons why those T1 static defenses are so risky in the first place is, of course, because you never really know if you're going to be able to find value with it. Once you get 50, 100 kills or something like that, yeah, you've definitely gotten your money's worth. But in this certain situation, it doesn't really feel like that's the case right here for the Yellow Commander at all. Twilight's still pumping out metal, though, and that's always lovely to see. Jeff walking around for the D-gun, looking for the cheeky beaky play. Did eventually grab these metal extractors, but not all of them, which is a little bit of a bummer. Oro 456 D-gunning his own lab in order to try and connect with some of these Gladiators here. Apparently out of power or out of APM, not entirely sure which one, but either way, it loses the commander right here, meaning that once more this base will be forfeit. T3 lab coming up for the Red Commander as the Rocket Spiders continue to encroach southward from the northern side. This queue of Rocket Spiders and Webbers is hilarious from the Blue Commander, who's just gone ahead and gone full spider mode. Call him Spider-Man the way he's pumping out six-leggers. T2 Max is up and running as well. Keep this economy nice and well functional. Seduce your Aphis, moving southward with a couple of those constructors as well to try and clean all this up. The Res Spiders, or the Reclaim Spiders rather, the Webbers are doing a wonderful job of supplying metal back to the team in order to fund the unit production here. Mass Archivist, all-terrain heavy railgun bots. They're quite good against, well, everything. Good in the same way that sharpshooters are, where once you have enough of them, there really isn't a lot that the enemy can do about it, just because pushing into them becomes so expensive no matter what you do about it. Nuclear missile connecting with some of the Webbers and Recluses over here. Not the end of the world right now, though, for the Blue Commander. Dark Elf 23 trying to degun this down, but already the Recluses have fired away their missiles and connected with the T2 lab, meaning no longer T2 units will be rolling the way out of the laboratory here. Yellow Commander trying to keep it together here. Sodfather desperately going up the eco chain, trying to build an advanced fusion reactor, trying to make this happen a little bit quicker. The Red Commander, Jeff 007. Do we spot this commander? Is the question. And the answer is no. Yeah, no radar available right here for the blue team whatsoever. Means that Jeff is essentially left to his own devices. We're going to go for a capture command. That would be cool to see. Nobody's going to notice if you capture a single metal extractor like that, especially well into the backline right there. Good odds that nobody sees what you've done. Mukade heavy assault bots, the assault unit for Legion. One of the T3 units available to Legion. They also have the Praetorian and the carries. Both useful in their own respects. The carry is a decent option if you need something cheap and early into the T3 gambit. The Praetorian, a decent pardon me, 1 second. Rewinding. A comparable unit choice to the Titan. If you're looking for something that sort of just does it all, the either the Praetorian or the Mukade are a decent option for what you might look towards. Surprised to see, of course, that this red facility is still up and running. I mean, it seems like with all these spiders, we would have had it dealt with a long time ago here. Weber's trying to catch this Marauder headed up the line right now. As we go into a couple of nuclear bombers. I was wondering what the end game was here for the Blue Commander. Taking over half the map, wondering where we're going to go from here. We are aware that there's still a player over here, right? Yeah, okay. You know, with this many rocket spiders, I bet it would only take 1 or 2 volleys in order to pop that APHIS, and that would take out literally every single thing in this entire area right here. You can see the inner circle is full damage, and then tailing off or trailing out from the inner circle to that outer flashing circle is the fall-off radius right there. Arquebus wasting their firepower on a whole bunch of ticks means that as soon as these Marauders show their face, they're going to have wasted their initial shot. Also marching directly into the Marauder here, never a good sign, as those Arquebus get blasted to smithereens by any of the Marauders so within range. Yeah, not the most efficient fight against this Marauder, but definitely not the worst thing ever, and at the very least bringing down the majority of them. Rocket Spiders here are going to have effectively no use against the Marauder, though. You know, I say that. 1,000 rockets later, and apparently it's all it really takes. Yeah. Arquebus continuing to march forward. The few of them that survived still punching forward right now. Was that an overshoot? Do Arquebus have piercing? That was weird. I'm not sure if that was a glitch or an actual feature that I have no idea about. But it looked like for a second that Arquebus had just shot through a unit and into another one. I wonder if that's intentional or not. I definitely think it's a cool idea. Here come the nuclear bombers, by the way. Bombs away. It takes 2, though. Where's the other one? We only sent 1 bomber, apparently. It's got it real low, but it does take 2 bombers in order to kill this base. Brown facility is surrendered, though, as suddenly the spiders appear and ravage the production right here of the Brown Commander. Mukade pushing forward, though. Red Commander got into the base over here. Whoa, I must have missed it. Okay, hold on. Let me go back. Alright, I backed off a couple of minutes here. What was a graveyard has now been restored to the base of Bartender, and you can see, indeed, Jeff 007 pushing forward right here, where before we were taking a look at the Mukade that were sweeping across the front lines of the Arquebus right here. Jeff 007 apparently sneaking directly into the base right now. The Green Commander popping the build power, disrupting all production, and with no radar detection, the Green Commander can't even spy where he's at. My goodness. Jeff ignoring the units that are shooting at him, though, unfortunately. Didn't get the T2 lab. Okay. Well, all that just to watch Jeff fail, unfortunately. Still a decent bit of damage, and of course, losing the build power hurts quite a lot, but we do have a Constructor to assist in getting some more units out here. Essentially, what we need to see right this moment is a reinstatement of build power, but of course, we already know how this goes. We already saw exactly where this leads to. The Green Commander in dire trouble now, as, yeah, more and more units push across the map right here. We're back to Arquebus pushing forward here as well. There was that shot again, by the way, by that arquebus. Cleaving through that build tower right there. Not sure what that was about, but anyway. Dark Elf 23 in a lot of trouble here. And it looks like those rocket spiders are looking to make very short work of this brown base. So here we go. Mukade essentially uncontested now as holy anti-air. So each of these Lupara, the bomb-resistant, medium-range, anti-air flak batteries, are 900 metal apiece? Yeah, 900 metal apiece is... I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of money for all this anti-air defense. When at the end of the day, it was a commander they managed to break through. Isn't that ironic? The least air unit of all time. These Lupara are quite good, by the way. I've tested them out plenty of times during the live stream lobbies. They function phenomenally as a static defense against the air, as far as that's concerned. They really do a phenomenal job of cleaning up those air clusters, especially T1, but even decently against T2. They fire relatively fast, and they do, of course, a big flak burst. So they're a decent static defense option. It's sort of strange because essentially what it means is that Legion gets their flak turrets at T1, but they're more expensive and they're less efficient, and then they get those rotary Gatling cannons that are perfect for one single target static defense, but don't really necessarily clean up big clusters of units the same way that, for instance, the flak towers do. Mukade sweeping through the base right now, the green commander though. Bartender losing it all in just a couple of units. It's now or never, I'm afraid. Looks like the decision is going to be now, as we do see some E-converters popping right here for the yellow commander. Losing a large swath of the energy converters means, of course, that the metal production is going to stall. But even so, having so many... actually, where is all this metal coming from? Huh. 148 energy or metal per second is phenomenal for how tiny the economy really is for the yellow commander. Well, either way. Yeah, I guess plus 83 from E-converters. Not bad. I like that call out right there, by the way, from the blue commander. Does anyone want a micro and army? I like when commanders do that. I like handing over units for others to micro, because it does, of course, mean that somebody isn't spending all of, you know, the entire team's APM. You can kind of diversify it a little bit. Look at this, setting up a proper fusion reactor economy up here. I love it. I love it. When you're strapped for build power, and especially in areas where you're sort of confined like the blue commander is right here, makes a lot of sense to go ahead and go for these fusion reactors, just because they're a little bit easier on the build power. They don't take as much, and they, of course, still boost your economy quite nicely. Cool to see a little bit of a switch up right here from the blue commander. Wouldn't mind seeing another eco center set up over here on this side, just setting up a bunch of build power and then setting up some aphises and e-converters and stuff like that. That's a really easy hill to hold. Loads of Marauder coming out, though, and we also have bombers inbound. Yeah, nice read right here from the blue commander. Seduce your aphis. Realizes, hey, wait a second. We've taken out all their players, including their air player. There's nobody left to defend against the bombers. I don't even need fighters. I'm just going to go ahead and go in for the kill. Oh, no. Do we not know where the... Oh, yeah, we have the aphis scouted here. I'm not sure exactly how. Is there a spy bot there or something? Oh, it's the scout plane. There's a scout plane just lying on the ground right there. Nicely done. All right. Let's see if the bombers can do it. Oh, just barely not. One of the corpses, maybe? Ooh, maybe. Manages to pop the build power. Nicely done right there. All right. Well, the anti-air defenses managed to shoot down the bombers before they take out the aphis, but at the very least, the build power goes down, and that's extremely, extremely annoying. Marauder, where are you going, buddies? Marauder have decided to become cliff huggers. Yeah, E-converter's still running, though. The fact that the E-converters are still running means that there's still plenty of resources to build those T3 units right now for the red commander. And with the amount of Mukade headed directly towards the red facilities here, this is a nail-biter of who could clutch it out. It's going to be the Sodfather in the in the water, hiding in the water here so as not to get sniped. It's really going to come down to whoever can manage to kill that last commander. And the last commander of Seduce Your Aphis is right here, integrated into the middle of this entire facility. No chance for it to run. The only option is to stand its ground and fight. Rocket spiders bouncing their rockets off the hillsides. Pretty hilarious the way that that works. I have never seen a rocket behave like that before. Bouncy rockets. All right. Mass rocket spider. I wonder what the total the total number of rocket spiders has been this match. Well, HLTs not going to be enough, I'm afraid. Mukade pushing their way up the backside of the blue commander's base, finding their way into the backline here. Seducer Aphis is losing the grasp. Wow. What a turnaround right there. Eventually, the advantage the Red Commander commanded over the southern side of this map eventually turned into a win, but you can see Seducer Aphis winning literally every other award except for destroying enemy units and defenses, which of course goes to Jeff 007, who essentially brought his team back from annihilation with a cheeky little commander play on the right-hand northern side and a whole bunch of Mukade to sweep through all these bases. Beautifully done. What a back-and-forth brawl between these commanders. Thanks a ton for watching. If you made it to the very end here, I always appreciate you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I'll see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.